Hello, I am Sena and welcome back to the series of Europe in the 19th century. This is part 2 of my Napoleonic Wars video, so if you'd like to check part 1, it's in the description down below. When we last left off in part 1, Napoleon's army had just been devastated in Russia, and let us see this episode how the master of Europe fell so far. In 1812, Napoleon was now in a very precarious position as his army had just been eliminated and now the rest of Europe would take advantage and eliminate Napoleon. With backing from the UK, they started modernizing and refining their armies to match Napoleon's, once refined army. So Napoleon decided to call in more conscripts, but they were young and inexperienced, but worst of all, Napoleon lacked horses so he could make speedy attacks. Although in the War of the Sixth Coalition, Napoleon had started taking some good hits to the Allies, he started being thrown back as the Allies cornered him in Leipzig. Napoleon endured a true battle of the five armies, his French troops fighting Austrians, Swedish, Prussians, and Russian troops. He tried escaping through a bridge again, but the bridge was blown prematurely, killing most of his troops. Soon enough, all of Europe was up in arms against Napoleon. Duke Wellesley of Wellington had driven Napoleon out of the Iberian Peninsula, and even old commanders like Murat, who is currently the king of Naples, decided to switch sides. Napoleon tried to rally France for a counter-offensive, but at this point of the war, they were pretty sick of it. And yet, he even tried one last campaign. As expected, he didn't succeed at first, but then failed miserably as he couldn't keep up with a widespread Allied force. In Paris, under the chaos, an ambitious politician named Talleyrand had allowed the Allies to enter Paris and basically end the war. However, as Napoleon prepared yet another counter-offensive, his marshal saw what he had not and told him the war was over. Napoleon was forced to sign a paper and abdicate the throne. His rule was replaced by the OG monarch and cousin of King Louis XVI, King Louis XVIII. Napoleon's punishment was to ensure no revolutionary ideas could be spread around. He was exiled to Elba, an island off the coast of Italy. Napoleon was to rule over Elba as its emperor, which was pretty funny actually. And in truth, his rule wasn't that bad. He got a state pension from France, and many visitors came to meet Napoleon, but soon the French refused to pay him back, and he sorely missed the days of his greatness. So, he decided to return to France with roughly 1,000 men to Paris. Meanwhile, back home, Louis XVIII had brought back the grueling monarchist ideology of his predecessor, and hearing of Napoleon's return, he immediately fled to Belgium. Napoleon's return was heralded as a welcome by France and a very big oh no to Europe. They declared Napoleon an outlaw and the illegitimate leader of France, and they declared war not on France but on the man himself. Napoleon planned to attack the Duke of Wellington and General Blucher's advance from Belgium and then attack Austria, but the problem is he would be dividing his army. At first, he did succeed, but his marshals were too cautious and a bit cowardly, and then he heard that Blucher would advance with Wellington's army against Napoleon. Napoleon had to head off Wellington before Blucher's army could arrive, and this, my friends, is where Napoleon's Waterloo happened, because this is the Battle of Waterloo. The Duke of Wellington had high ground and held key defensive positions, but Napoleon attacked them at a farmhouse where they fought against British and German soldiers. Then, French Marshal Ney launched a disastrous cavalry attack, which the British artillery tore to bits. However, they soon secured another area and unleashed artillery barrage on the British square formations. Wellesley knew he couldn't survive more of this, but luckily, Blucher's army had arrived and drove Napoleon out, ending Napoleon's Waterloo. Napoleon's hope of another victory had ended. He tried to negotiate a house in London, but the Allies tried to isolate him to St. Helena, a very isolated island, with the closest country being South Africa. Napoleon lived out the last days of his life on the island, writing memoirs to secure his legacy in Europe. However, back in Europe, his legacy will not be forgotten. A sense of pride and nationalism spread across Europe, and the Congress of Vienna that followed redrew borders so the European powers could balance each other out. The Napoleonic Code is still a very popular code being used today, and France was back under the Bourbons' rule until 1838, and 1848 when they revolt again. Napoleon died at the age of 51 of stomach cancer, and his body wasn't moved to Paris until 1840. He is sometimes considered the 19th century's biggest enigma. Was he a war-conquering emperor, or a leader that led France through his enemies and introduced the modern system of governing and warfare? His legacy shall live on as possibly Europe's greatest military wartime commander.